Please come.
Thank you. Good evening, sir.
Good evening. Please sit down.
Thank you, sir.
So, what's your name?
NAMRATA CHOUBEY, sir.
So, Ms. Namrata, you are going to UPSC for the first time, or you have gone earlier also?
I have gone earlier.
Achha. How many times? Twice?
Once.
How many marks you got at that time?
Sir, 124.
Oh, what happened?
Sir, I think I got a little nervous, and I was not able to frame my answers in a very good way, I think.
You can take the mask, remove it.
Okay, sir.
Yes, since you are not using it. So,
Yes.
so we'll start. Just tell us something about yourself, please.
Sir, I belong to Garhwa district in Jharkhand, and I have done my schooling from there itself, and after that I have done my graduation from biological sciences and bioengineering from IIT Kanpur, and I have worked in a financial analytics company for a year in Mumbai, and after that I have been preparing for UPSC civil services examination.
Tell me, with your experience of Jharkhand having been bifurcated or taken out of Bihar, isn't it wise to trifurcate UP, Kanpur? You have studied, you know quite a bit about UP. It's too unwieldy, don't you think so? 75 districts, huge state.
Yes, sir. Since I come from a smaller state, and I have seen some real development and tribal representation happening in Jharkhand after the bifurcation of the state. So, from that point of view, I think that Uttar Pradesh is a very huge state, and some of the pockets of Uttar Pradesh have been underdeveloped and less represented. So, I believe that bifurcation or trifurcation, whatever is in line with the financial possibilities, so that it is financially viable, I think it can be done.
No, financial viability. Now, many states are there in the northeast. Most of them are not financially viable, but the government of India gives money to them. Now, here one area is Bundelkhand, as you know of.
Yes.
Difficult area.
Yes.
So, you support trifurcation?
Yes, sir, I believe
bifurcation,
that,
whatever.
yes, smaller.
But tell me, then why is it not happening? I mean, it's sheer common sense. If I can think about it, don't you think people there would have thought of it?
As far as I know, sir, people are demanding for it. But one of the major reasons what I can think of is of financial viability only. That smaller state might not be able to support
That's
themselves.
That's not for the people to think, no?
What government? I'm answering why government
Has
is not.
any state government in UP ever recommended it? Any idea?
No, sir, I don't have idea.
Okay, tell me, what is Gati Shakti?
Sir, it is infrastructure push in which the central government will monitor different kind of infrastructure projects under the national infrastructure pipeline, and it will be a centralized monitoring and implementation process in which all the ministries and departments will come together to speed fast the process.
Me, social problems, sociology, what are the major social problems of India? Top 4, just list them, don't explain.
Okay. So, I think, sir, biggest major social problem in India is a huge number of people are still living in poverty, and they are not able to have basic minimum for their life. The other problem what I can think is poor standard of living for women, which who are not involved in the labor force participation.
You are again explaining. I told you not to explain.
Okay, sir. Another problem is, I think, is increasing social inequality and economic inequality, and another problem is rising communal tensions, which we are seeing these days.
Do you know what are the NREGA rates in Jharkhand?
Sir, I do not remember the exact number, but I have read that these are less as compared to the national average in other parts of India.
Have these rates been revised recently by the government of India or not? Or when were they revised last?
Sir, I believe during the Atmanirbhar Bharat project announcement, these were revised.
Atmanirbhar Bharat project. Now, according to you, Mr. Namrata, has the world order changed today?
Yes, sir, in many ways it is changing, as the world was mainly unipolar after the breakdown of Soviet Union, and with the rise of countries like Russia and China and other powers like Turkey, etc., the world is becoming more multipolar. And also with the rise of China, we are we are expecting that we can see a bipolar contest if between America and China.
Do you think Turkey also, Turkey's emergence has changed the world order? You think is Turkey that big?
It also asserts on itself on the international arena.
Even India is asserting for that matter.
India is a major power, sir, but in comparison to India, Turkey is not that big of a power.
My last question is that supposing you join the IPS and you are district SP in Jharkhand, in a district, and you one day get information that at a certain place in your jurisdiction, some people are indulging in violence, they are throwing petrol bombs, burning buses, damaging property. What action you will take?
Sir, as they are acting in opposition to the law, my first priority will be to maintain law and order and use the police to prevent those people from doing the anti-social work.
What will the police do?
Sir, police will barricade the area and
barricade the area. So, okay, then?
And it will give them warning to stop the violence, or use some force if necessary, like use of rubber bullets or something like that. And after that, the miscreants should be arrested and should be given the punishment. And after that, we should try to involve the community to see what the problem in that area is, why, and recognize the root cause of the problem and try to find some long-term solutions.
Thank you,
sir.
Namrata, you've done IIT, you're from IIT Kanpur.
Yes, sir.
Biological and bioengineering.
Yes, sir.
What are you going to do in government? These subjects are not relevant.
Sir, I think that these subjects are very much relevant in the government also. For example, during the handling of the pandemic, the knowledge of biotechnology was very much essential for the.
But there are doctors and biologists who will advise the government.
Yes, sir. But for solving the problem of vaccine hesitancy, the administrator and the implementers.
So you should be sitting in the labs and doing some work on vaccines.
No, sir.
No?
I should be. I think I should be more able to explain the science behind the vaccine and help people to remove that vaccine hesitancy.
Okay, then how will you deal with vaccine hesitancy? There are still a large number of people who don't believe, who are not convinced that vaccines are a good thing.
Yes, sir.
How will you convince them?
Sir, the most effective way, according to me, will be the use of science. We can give examples from past. For example, the huge impact polio vaccine has made in our society to making India polio free. And apart from that, we can also take the local youth and community leaders in confidence and do house to house interaction with people and tell them about the benefits. Also in the case of COVID, we have seen how we have been able to resume our lives after the vaccine. So these kind of techniques can be used to take people in confidence.
Don't need to go to IIT to study this, to tell all of this.
Sir, going to IIT gave the scientific temper to deal with these kind of situations in which people take the path of non-science type of solutions for fighting the unknown. So that
Do you think the government has removed COVID appropriate behavior measures prematurely?
Sir, as the cases were decreasing rapidly, so government removed the mask.
But now they are rising.
Yes, they are rising. So I believe that the government only made it voluntary, but the advisory was always there that people should follow it. But I think that yes, unless the nature of the pandemic is very, very difficult to understand.
So was it premature? That was my question.
Yes, according to me, sir, it was premature.
So therefore, you were expecting a fourth wave?
Yes, sir, it might come as we have seen in other parts of the world, like in China and European countries.
And if there is a bad variant, then things can go really ugly.
Sir, in this pandemic prediction, nobody is very sure about how any new variant will behave. So we have to check on all the possibilities, and we have to be prepared for that bad
So the
situation
curve should
also.
come back again, because we don't know what will happen.
Yes, sir, it might.
Lockdowns?
Sir, as we have seen in earlier waves, in the third wave, especially Omicron wave, the lockdown was not felt necessary because the variant was mild and many
But China
of the.
feels it necessary.
Yes.
It has locked down Shanghai.
Yes, sir. China has taken a different kind of strategy. It is a zero COVID strategy where they do not want any kind of
So
transmission.
what is wrong with that strategy?
Sir, I think that despite the lockdown, Shanghai is seeing very high death rate and very high cases, and also on the economic front they are losing. But opposite to that, we have taken the measures like masking and universal vaccination and testing, and that has proved to be more favorable for India.
Has India reached the stage of herd immunity?
Yes, sir. As more than 70-80% people are vaccinated,
So we shouldn't bother.
Sir, we can
Now, this is a
bother.
dichotomy. We're expecting a third wave, but with herd immunity, we should be more comfortable.
Yes, sir.
Where do we stand?
Sir, we have to worry only in case of some new variant develops, which is able to evade the immunity generated from the current vaccines, because the coronavirus is mutating very rapidly.
What happened during the Spanish flu?
Spanish flu, 2 or 3 waves came, and
There were
after
no
that,
vaccines then, or were they?
no.
So without vaccines, they got over it.
Yes,
2,
sir.
3 years.
Yes, sir.
Now, with all this technology, we're still struggling in the third year.
Because, sir, the more connected world, the virus is finding so many pockets where it has not reached previously, and it is mutating fastly due to its faster transmission. So due to this, we are seeing more number of variants.
Startup India. Are you familiar with this Government of India program?
Yes, sir.
When did the government start this?
Sir, in 2015.
And what was the eco environment that they created for startups to flourish?
Sir, they have created a separate ministry of skill development for promoting skill development.
Specifics.
Okay. For the startup, they have created a fund of funds of rupees 10,000 crore, which will provide fund to the.
So funding, what else?
Okay. Apart from that, they have also liberalized the patenting norms so that people can have easy access to the patent, and apart from that, they have created industry academia linkages by creating the National Skill Development Corporation, through which the skills for the startup can be given to the students in colleges.
How many startups are there in India now? And how fast are they growing?
Sir, India has one of the fastest growing startup culture, and I think thousands of startups, but I can guess 20-30,000 startups might be there.
What are unicorns?
A startup which reached the valuation of $1 billion.
How many in India?
More than 50, sir.
More than 50, very true. Now, the failure rate of startups is up to 90%. Do you agree?
Yes, sir.
Why is that?
There are so many reasons. For example, the idea with which they start the company might not be so viable. Apart from that, the lack of funding may be there, because banks are many times hesitant to provide funds to the startup company. Apart from that, lack of skills and technology, and also reputation of idea is also one of the reason that many of the startups are not viable.
So, would you like to start a startup considering 9 out of 10 will fail?
Yes, sir, I think I will, because one will succeed and I only need one chance to get successful.
Thank you.
Ms. Namrata,
Yes, sir.
you want to work as an IAS officer in Jharkhand.
Yes, sir.
Now, what are the main challenges before Jharkhand?
Sir, one of the most important challenge till now is Naxalism in Jharkhand, which has not been completely eradicated. Apart from that, there is lack of economic development, and also a lot of unemployment is there. Also, in the front of human capital development, there are issues like good quality of higher education and health facilities are lacking in the state. And apart from that, in some areas of Jharkhand, like my own district Garhwa, the basic facilities like electricity and water are also problems.
So, which means that in terms of the Human Development Index, it is not doing well.
Yes, sir.
What can you tell me about the Human Development Index?
Sir, Human Development Index is prepared by United Nations Developmental Program, and it is one of the collaboration of one Indian scientist and one Pakistani scientist. And
Please, they were not scientists, they were economists.
oh, I'm sorry, sir.
Can you tell me their names?
Mahbubul Haq and Amartya Sen.
So, did they work together to create it?
They collaborated their ideas. Okay.
Amartya Sen was the inspiration. What he wrote provided the inspiration to Dr. Mahbubul Haq, who actually created this Human Development Index, and UNDP uses it.
Yes, sir.
And you don't think Jharkhand is doing very well in that regard?
Yes, sir.
Now, talking of the UNDP and the United Nations, I'm sure you follow matters relating to it. Which are the 6 principal organs of the United Nations as it was created?
Sir, United Nations General Assembly, United Nations Security Council,
Good,
then International Court of Justice,
good.
then ECOSOC, Economic and Social Commission, and another one, sorry sir, I am not able to recall.
One is lying in abeyance because it's no longer having any work to do. The Trusteeship Council, which
Yes,
looked after
yes,
decolonization.
yes.
But the 6th one, how can an organization work without the Secretariat? Can
Yes.
Jharkhand work without the Secretariat?
No, no.
It was said by Sardar Patel that the civil service is the steel frame of the country. Explain what he would have meant by that, and do you agree? What are your views?
Sir, I believe that by steel frame he meant an organization that will form the base of the development story of India, and it according to him it is steel because as steel is non-corrosive, he expected civil servants to be non-corruptible and dedicated to their duty. And I also assume that as steel has a lot of flexibility, so Indian civil service will be flexible enough to evolve itself according to the developmental needs of India. So these are my opinions.
All right, now let me ask you, what do you think are going to be the long-term consequences of the Russia-Ukraine war?
Sir, as per my understanding, in the long term, I think Russia will be more segregated from the world order as the sanction has been imposed by US and the NATO countries. And I believe that after the war also those kind of sanction may continue because of the Russia's aggressive behavior which has been happening in these years. And also this war will strengthen the NATO and the US collaboration in the security field.
And weaken Russia? Is Russia weakened?
I think, sir, in the long run it will be weakened due to the sanctions imposed by the US and the NATO countries.
My last question, what do you think are the lessons for South Asia from the Russia-Ukraine conflict?
Sir, there is some kind of similarity in Russia, Ukraine and South Asian history, as Ukraine has been separated from Russia and some part of it still support Russia. So these kind of struggle after separation we also see in South Asia, for example between India and Pakistan. Pakistan had been separated from India and some part of India are seeing separatist movements. So we have to solve our issues bilaterally with dialogue and deliberations and not take the path of Russia and Ukraine, which are seeing a lot of violence and human casualties.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Sorry, Namrata,
Yes, sir.
you come from the state of Jharkhand and you mentioned that Naxalism is a big problem.
Yes, sir.
Supposing you were the chief secretary of the state, how would you tackle this problem?
Yes, sir. So I think Naxalism problem can be solved by looking it at two fronts. First is the law and order problem, which is many of the Naxalites are using violence. For example, they are using landmines and attack on.
Come to the point.
Yes. So we have to use modernize our police forces and neutralize the Naxalites who are engaging in violence. And the other is the development front, in which we have to focus on the development of tribal areas, especially the infrastructure development and human capital development.
Do you see this problem, this insurgency problem, as same as other states, or do you think Naxalism is a different problem?
In other states like Northeast, many of the insurgency is based on ethnic lines. Like people are wanting different states on the basis of ethnic identities. But in the Naxalite areas, it is war against the government. They want to topple the government and make their.
Why?
Because they believe in communism, and which is the ideology that there should be no state and there should be the rule of the common people. So they are against the symbols of the power.
Do you know where this name is coming from, Naxal?
Sorry, sir, I did not follow.
Name Naxal,
Yes, sir.
Naxalite.
Yes, sir.
Where is this name coming from?
It's a village in West Bengal, sir, Naxalbari, where first the violence took off. From there, it is called Naxalism.
Okay. Now let's move to a different subject. Are you aware of what are called self-help groups?
Yes, sir.
How are they functioning in your state?
Sir, there are many self-help groups working in my state, but it has not been very significant in other parts of country. For example, Kerala is very famous for
No, I am talking of your state. Why are you going to Kerala?
It is not as exemplary in other parts of India, but there has been some work done on this front.
No, but can you tell me something about what are the groups like? What are their activities?
Yes, sir. The women SHGs that I know of, they work in the field of women skill training. For example, sewing skills and making small craft, and these kind of activities are taught to the women to live earning.
Then after that?
So they are given training, and apart from that, they are also motivated to take loan from the banks as a group and then start their own venture.
No, they are motivated to take loans, or banks themselves activate these groups, nurture them.
Yes, bank also do that, and they also come up as a group to take the loans.
Okay. Now, my third question. What are your views on the Uniform Civil Code?
I think, sir, it should be implemented, because as it is also mentioned in our constitution, and also it will help in removing many of the social problems, especially against the women. There are so many practices which exploit the women.
What will this code contain?
This code contains laws on the civil matters, for example, marriage, adoption, divorce, and these kind of laws. So in these matters, women are being discriminated. So Uniform Civil Code will specially help that part of it.
No, but different religions have different laws. So is it all right to interfere in their personal laws and have a uniform civil code?
Yes, sir. As far as the bad practices in many of the religion which are not in line with the constitutional values of equality and dignity, so these kind of problems are not being solved. So Uniform Civil Code will be a good start in that direction.
But don't you see any conflict with Article 25?
Sir, I think that Uniform Civil Code will still allow people to follow their own religious rituals. For example, presently Christians and Jain and other communities are included in the Hindu Marriage Act, but they still follow their practices and rituals.
But if there is a common civil code, then they can follow their own laws. What is the purpose of UCC then?
Sir, not laws. I am talking about the rituals which they can follow. So
rituals they can,
yes,
but
sir.
if there is a law on marriage, if there is a law on adoption, if there is a law on inheritance, it has to be followed.
Yes, sir. But as our secularism is such that if any of the inhuman activities are taking place under the name of following religion, so we have to take care of that. And also, due to this reason, I believe that Uniform Civil Code should be implemented.
All right. My last question. Are you following what is happening in LIC
Yes, sir.
IPO, LIC IPO?
Yes, sir. I have heard about it.
You have heard about it?
Yes,
Or
sir.
read about it?
Yes, sir. Both, sir. Both.
Okay. So what is the latest?
So, LIC, 3% shares of LIC are being offered for the IPO.
Why 3%?
Because, sir, due to the earlier the plan was around 5 to 10%, but due to the global uncertainty due to this Ukraine-Russia crisis.
We'll talk about it in your feedback.
Yes,
Thank
sir.
you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Ms. Namrata. Our discussion with you is over.
Thank
Kindly
you,
wait outside for a few minutes.
Sure,
We will
sir.
call you for a
sir.
feedback.
Sure, sir. Thank you, sir.